Hello, everyone. Welcome to Evolution Network. I'm your host, David Mudrick. Our guest today is Shannon Gatti. Shannon has over 30 years of consumer products experience. He's had many roles in a lot of different companies. He's been in sales, purchasing, supply chain management, sourcing, buying, and he's also been a business owner. So, Shannon, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me, Dave. It's an honor.
Well, tell us a little bit about your background and some of your work experience.
Well, let's see. It goes back. I started really retail management. I managed a couple of retail stores. From there, I was recruited out to the East Coast to start an importing company in the textile business out to New Jersey. So I went out there, got the company going about a year and a half, then really did not think that the East Coast was where I wanted to raise my family. So then I was recruited to a company in Ohio, in Strongsville, Ohio, called Degree Slammerite West. Good-sized company at the time, a little over 100 million. But then I worked there for 17 years, started as a senior buyer, and kind of learned the ropes from some really good mentors at that company. So that's where I really got some good experience on the sales side of it. Aside from being promoted to a director of purchasing, merchandising, marketing, and advertising, I also was given the director of retail operations position simultaneously, and I was account exec for Walmart stores. So I was their account exec for 6 years. It took me pretty much a year, 1 year time to get my first order from them. It took quite a few trips out there just to get to know them. They have comfort level, and then so it took a little time just to get out those sales. So grew that business, doubled sales 6 consecutive years in a row, and then they pulled that out. They put that onto someone else in the sales department. From there, that's when I left and I opened a couple of stores of my own here in Arizona. Started out strong, then the housing market hit, and 3 years later, had to close them up. Then I went out to Nashville for about 7 years, and I was a supply chain manager for an auto parts business. Moved back here to Arizona to be with the grandkids, and that's when Dave and we hooked up, and I've been here since. So.
Well, tell me about it. It sounds interesting that you took, a year and a half to get into Walmart. So what was that process like, and how did you eventually get in there?
Oh, the first time, let's see. Well, we were a good-sized company, so we were known in the craft industry for a lot of products, and we were the way that we broke in there was back with a regional, their regional office, and they approved us for a couple of retail stores for some of the craft products that the managers wanted us to have. So we had a little bit of experience. We had a vendor number it was kind of like through the back door.
Okay.
So then I got an appointment with the buyer to go out there just to show what we were selling, and we were selling it very well in a couple of stores. And of course, she met. Nothing happened that first meeting. Went back for a second meeting with the same buyer. Her name was Angela Jones, and nothing happened at the second meeting. Went for a third meeting, showed more product. Still nothing happened there. And then I got an invitation from her because she knew my merchandising background and my retail background, and she had a difficult time getting people to come, her current vendors, to set up their Christmas department. So I said, why not? Let's go out there. We're not doing any business, but I accepted her invitation. Went out there and spent, they had a sample store across the street from the Bentonville main office, and that's where we did all the setups. So I spent a couple of days there where we're setting up all their Christmas, their whole seasonal department. Then right at the very last day, the buyer noticed that there was an open power panel. And she called me over and says, hey, Shannon, we have this power panel open. What do you think? Do you have anything you can put on there? This is what we'd really like. We'd love just to have a tree topper. So right then, in a matter of an hour, we came up with the idea. Only had about 60 days to design. manufacture, produce enough for all of Walmart stores for their seasonal. It was 2,500 stores. Got it done. Sourced all the product, put it in there. She sold it through. It only took about 2.5, 3 weeks to sell the product through. So then the next year, of course, there was the next meeting. We went out for the spring meeting, and I got more business, then more business, and then we started to expand and work with other buyers at Walmart because the sell-through. That's how they base everything. If you perform to their requirements, you generate sales, they increase the business. So it got to the point by year 3 where all the buyers would come into the meeting. They would book them. See, the way that Walmart worked is you only get 30-minute meeting blocks. But all the buyers, there was 5 buyers at the time, so I had 5 30-minute blocks, and they were all just throwing product, wanting you to quote, because we were a company that produced, shipped on time, kept it in stock, and the product sold. So that's why, and we had to control our growth with the Walmart, with the quotes, where the company would only let us double the business with Walmart each year. So that's how we controlled it. But that's how it took that long. But once you start performing, the business just kept growing.
Yeah, well, that's a great story. So it kind of shows that persistence paid off, and then just going a little above and beyond, even though there was no order or no business, pitching in and developing a little relationship with the buyer. And then, you just happen to be there when an opportunity comes up.
If I wouldn't have accepted it, been out there, wouldn't even got to the first order.
Yeah, it'd have been easy to say, well, I don't know, there's nothing in it for me here. I'm not going to go out there and waste my time. But right. Just
or fourth trip for what to help her do it. That it would have been easy to say no, but it was worth the try, worth the chance.
Cool. So, do you have any other kind of stories? I mean, I think a lot of our listeners are sales managers, sales reps, are dealing with, making cold calls. How do you break the ice? I mean, the story you gave was a great one there, but what if you don't even have that relationship? What if you're just emailing, if you're just leaving voicemail? Any kind of tips for people to, some kind of a story where maybe you solved a problem like that, getting through to people in some unique way, or is it just persistence? What do you find pays off the most?
Being on both sides of the table, on the sales side for many years and on the buying side for many years, working with a lot of different salespeople, a lot of different suppliers, not knowing the person, the cold calls were always, they're probably the last email you open, the last phone call you take, or the bottom one that you return. There has to be a connection. It has to be like the first phone call, the first introduction. Don't count on any response. So persistence. Sometimes the third or fourth contact, you'll recognize the name. You'll know. Say, okay, let's take a look at this. So sometimes that's what it takes, because you're just, as a buyer, you're bombarded with a lot of communications, from whether it be phone calls, emails, samples, unsolicited samples being sent. It takes something to grab you. There has to be like on an email. It can't look like a spam. It can't be, look like one, because if you have 1,000 emails in front of you, there has to be something there, something more personal, like something in a subject line where that you might know someone, a friend of a friend, or something to introduce yourself, just to grab your attention, because chances are your email or your phone call is not going to be returned or opened.
You mentioned the unsolicited samples. What do you think about those? What did you think when you got those? Did you look at them, or did an assistant look at them, or did they have any value as far as getting?
I'll say, who is this company? Did I request it? What's in here? If it wasn't there, you'd probably put it in a pile, maybe get to it, maybe open it up. If you don't recognize the name, if you know you didn't request it, or give it to your assistant, see if they open it, maybe if they know why it was sent. If it's something that looks good, you give it away. I know that sounds horrible, but there's just so much that comes through at any given time. If it's not something that's really attention grabber that you might have seen out there or you requested or you're already familiar with, a lot of times the sample won't even generate anything.
So you're talking about getting hundreds of emails per day, unsolicited, from different people.
At least 100, yes.
So that's why when you hear people say, well, you need to go 9, 10, 11 times before somebody might even respond, maybe there's some merit in that. So it's just, oh, well, I've deleted it, but I've deleted it 10 times, and this guy's still trying. What has he got? Does that make you, maybe you want to open it, or maybe even just look at it?
No, not really.
Not really? Okay.
No, it's a lot of times they'll say, I've already emailed you 9 times. Well, if I did answer the first 8, why do you think?
Well, it seems like in particular, the mass buyers and mass retail, they change them around a lot too. So it's even hard to ever get a relationship with them, or, you can't take them to lunch. It's more and more difficult, it seems like, to even make any kind of connection outside of that email or that phone call.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that's about every 3 years. Most of the majors, sometimes 4, they'll rotate buyers through categories. And that's part of that persistence. But that buyer and your reputation will precede you. You'll get a second buyer. The buyers share all the information on their suppliers and the salespeople, who's good, who's not good, who's up, who's down. So that is carried forward, and that gets shared. A good, the buyers, they talk to each other, and the buyers are always looking for good suppliers, good salespeople, and it makes it a lot easier if you have the right reputation with that group. And then they change places too. If you have a good relationship, you supported that buyer, you did well with it, and they move to another company, which happens all the time, then that's actually an opportunity for you for a new customer.
What about introductions from other buyers? I mean, does that carry any weight? I mean, if you say, hey, I'm doing business with this guy, does the referrals help at all to break through that?
Absolutely. Those are probably the most valuable. If you get a lead or a kudos of a salesperson or a supplier from another buyer, it's like gold.
Okay. Well, that's definitely a good tip to know. What about, can you give any of your thoughts behind, you were also a buyer when you owned your own business, so now you're kind of the mom and pop store buyer if you have a couple of stores. Do you think that approach is any different when you're going after some of the big box retailers versus a mom and pop?
Yeah, as a mom and pop, it's even more important. The big store, the big buyers for the high volume, they have a different workload. There's always a ton of emails. There's a lot of people reaching out to you, whether through all the social media. You're always getting bombarded with requests. But from a mom and pop standpoint, you have very limited time. You're wearing so many hats. You're not only doing all the buying, you're also doing the selling, you're doing the marketing and the merchandising. You're doing everything. So your time is extremely valuable. And even on the small side, the salespeople, you have to be even more efficient in scheduling your appointments, how you're going to be able to help the mom and pop customer, because they have a lot less time to focus on it, because during your meeting, they still have 20 other things that are going on simultaneously in their store with their personnel. So they can't even really focus directly just on you for an extended period. So you need to cut through it all and solve what problem you need to do to get their business. See, they need help much more than even the big chains, and in a more timely fashion.
Well, we talked about that a little bit before the interview started here. As far as the salespeople that you think are really valuable to you, they're solving problems or they're helping you with your business. Could you maybe talk a little bit about that, how valuable that is, and why, even if you're now let's say, and you've got several salespeople that you're buying from, what makes one stand out from the other in your mind that you want to do business with them?
Yeah, first and foremost, a good salesperson, number one, knows their product. They know their product line. And number two, they've taken the time to learn your company, your business. And the third, the most important part is how they can help you, how they can fix the problem. Everyone has an opportunity. Every buyer has the challenges in front of them. A good salesperson fills that gap. They fill the void. They help the buyer solve the problem with the product. It gives the opportunity. The good salespeople are the ones that listen. They listen to the buyer and they make the connection. They don't just come, open their bag and throw everything on the table and say, "Here's what I got." But there's someone who studied that company. They'll go in and they'll walk their sales floor. They'll see the product that they have. They'll see what they're missing. They'll see what product that's not performing, or maybe another supplier that's not shipping the product in. It could be, empty space. So that does absolutely no good for the retailer. So a good salesperson will do some advanced legwork, or just over time, and learn and study their customer and make the connection of how they can help the buyer, instead of just throwing it out there saying, "Here's what I got. What do you want?" That's the biggest difference between a good salesperson and your average salesperson.
Okay, well, that makes sense. What about when you had problems coming up? Like, so something's wrong, the people are going to miss a ship date. I mean, it seems like some salespeople want to try to cover it up, make some kind of story, or, do you really think honesty is always the best policy? And just to come to you and go, "Hey, here's what we did. We blew this. And, here's what we're going to do to make it up." Is that?
Just be a straight shooter. Tell it like it is, why it happened. If it was your screw up, admit to it. Say, "I'm sorry." That's the two best words you can say. Here's how we're going to fix it. So don't just tell them that, "Hey, we have an issue." Tell them, help them solve the solution, help them to find a problem, and just be upfront with the buyers as soon as possible. Don't delay it. If you're going to be late with the shipment, get on the phone and tell them it's going to be late as soon as you know, and don't try to cover it up. And hopefully they won't realize it, because most buyers do.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to I mentioned that you started some of your own stores. Can you give us a little background on that and kind of tell us your tale there and what happened? And
Oh, sure. I went opened my first store. Let's see, we got out there. I had it open within 60 days, open in June of 2008. My business plan, I needed to do $1,800 a day average to pay all the bills, pay everybody, pay myself, and put a little money aside to open a second store after year one. That was the business plan. Well, it didn't start out at $1,800 a day. Right out of the gate, we were doing $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a day, and it was fun. It was exciting. It was every day was an adrenaline pump, and you're doing the 17-hour days there at night, and you get so caught up in the moment. You're just running crazy, and it was a lot of fun. It was exciting as can be. So after 6 months, well, it was really after 4 months, I said, I don't have to wait a year. Let's start looking for a second location. So I went out and I started looking. I found one in November. Thanksgiving week, signed up for a second store. Not just a store, but I doubled the footage, double the size. And that was the third week in November of 2008. Well, if anyone was around here, December 2008, what happened? There was a housing crash, and that's what we did. We were a home furnishings, home accent, home store is what we sold.
Okay.
And immediately, it didn't happen. It wasn't gradual. There was no warning, had nothing. Sales went to almost nothing. You couldn't pay people to come in the stores. I mean, they were foreclosing. So that was a challenge. That was a very difficult time. That was trying to carry on. All of a sudden, you're in survival mode, and you don't even have that second store open. And it was already signed the lease. Everything was done. Construction was already completed. So all you could do was push forward. Just keep going forward. Try to stay on plan. Cut where you can. Took myself completely off the payroll. Got another job. Got a second job, but still kept trying. We held on for 3 years. but you put the line of, the red line, and where you had to close up and hit that line, and that's close the doors. And that was in 2011.
Yeah, it's a tough thing to go through. What do you think you learned from that whole experience? Positive come out the other side that you could.
Yeah, I mean, part of it, you look and you see so many times in life, there's things that happen that are out of your control. There's nothing. I mean, I didn't feel good. The question I kept asking myself was, why didn't I see that coming? Anyone with half a brain should have seen something like that coming. Well, and the more I looked, the more I talked to people, and you talk to some of the best business people I knew, they didn't see it coming. Not until I read this one book called the Big. I forget the name of the book now. They made a movie out of it, but there's only 5 people in the world that saw that coming.
Oh, the Big Short.
The Big Short. That's it. Yeah.
There was the guys that saw that it was coming and shorted all those mortgage-backed securities, and they were like one of the few people in the world. But everybody thought they were crazy at the time, right?
Yep. And here they cleaned up 5 people in the world saw it, and even they were trying to sell it to other people. So that kind of made me feel better, knowing that I wasn't the only one. So that it helps you kind of move forwards, where I didn't blame myself as much. But it's hard, when you lose everything, I even cashed out my 401k, and that went into the business. It went to pay payroll. You sell your car to make payroll. So you try to do everything to do it right. But I walked out of there. I didn't owe anyone a penny. So there's some things that you can hold your head up high. A lot of people didn't. They stuck. A lot of people with a lot of bills. But you just kind of accept it and move on, move forward, and know that there's always a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, well, that's something you can definitely be proud of. I mean, that's a lot of people didn't take that way out. They bailed quickly and stuck everyone, the banks or whoever they owed money. So, yeah, congratulations for doing that.
Well, thank you.
Well, can you think of anything that I haven't asked you? I mean, what else do you think might be helpful to some young sales managers, sales reps, maybe to get them to think about their business, maybe improving their business, their relationships, their networking, just anything in general maybe that might help them?
Yeah, let's see. Networking and pretty much how you treat your customers. Big buyer, small buyer, 1 location, 2 location, no matter what they are, treat them all with the same sense of urgency as you do your best buyer. Because you never know where that buyer is going to go to, what they might change jobs, they might go from 1 store to 10 stores quickly. Always, treat every customer as if they are your best customer. If I can give you, any advice that would get you further long term, show these people that you're in it for the long term, not a fly-by-night, one-stop visit. Because you see a lot of that. You'll get a salesman, they'll pester you for a sales meeting 20 times. You finally give it to them, and if they didn't get an order that first visit, they don't even bother contacting you. Just be persistent. Let them. Buyers need to, because they only have a certain amount of dollars, so many open buys to go around. Show them that you're going to be there, not just this meeting, that you're going to be around for them, and that you can take care of them and serve them, as they deserve.
All right, well, that's definitely good advice. Okay, well, I appreciate you coming on today, and I think all the information you gave us is really valuable. Will help a lot of people. And
thank you so much for having me. Enjoyed it.
All right, thank you.
Good luck with this podcast, Dave. All right.
All right, thanks, Shannon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.